5 signs your legs are aging too fast, and why many people lose the ability to walk. Dear friends, there comes a time in life when all of us begin to notice that our legs are not as quick or as steady as they once were. The older we get, the more our leg muscles naturally weaken. That part is unavoidable. But living a long life while still keeping our freedom, our independence, and the ability to walk on our own, that is something we can protect day by day. Simply by caring for our feet and legs properly. Many people take their legs for granted. They feel a little fatigue, a little weakness. The muscles get thinner, and they think, well, that's just old age. But if we don't understand what's really happening, these small signs can slowly push us into a very difficult place. Some people, in only a few short years, find themselves relying on a wheelchair or unable to walk without help, losing the freedom they've had their entire lives. At that point, even standing up and taking a few steps around the house becomes a challenge. But here is the truth. These problems are not fate. Weak legs are not simply something that comes with age. Most of the time, they come from not knowing the real cause, not recognizing what our legs truly need, and not realizing that certain daily habits are quietly speeding up the decline. If we understand early and take action early, our legs can remain strong and dependable for many more years. In today's sharing, I want to give you the essential knowledge to prevent leg fatigue, leg weakness, and muscle loss. We will explore why the legs weaken so quickly, how you can check your muscle condition right at home, and the simple, practical steps that keep your legs strong, your hips stable, and your walking confident. My hope is that, after listening, you'll find at least one small thing to practice each day. Just one small change can make your older years much easier, with fewer worries when stepping up, stepping down, or going out. Before we go any further, there is one very important word you need to know. Sarcopenia, or age-related muscle loss. Many people have heard the term before, but when asked what it truly means, they're not quite sure. Sarcopenia is the gradual loss of muscle mass and strength that happens as we grow older. It may sound simple, but it affects the health of older adults far more than most people realize. People with sarcopenia become tired easily, fall easily, and break bones more easily. When they get sick or need surgery, their recovery is much slower than someone who still has good muscle strength. Studies even show that sarcopenia increases the risk of death and pushes many older adults into long-term care. To put it plainly, your muscle mass is one of the clearest predictors of your healthy lifespan. Around the world, large studies have found that once people reach their 60s, between 10 and 20% already begin to experience sarcopenia. Among people in their 80s, in some places, nearly half are affected. These numbers show that sarcopenia is not rare. It is a major global challenge in an era where people live longer than ever. Even in Japan, a country known for excellent elderly healthcare, about 11% of men and 17% of women over 65 have sarcopenia. And if the rate is that high in Japan, it is often even higher elsewhere. What makes it frightening is how quietly it develops. One day you stand up a little slower. The next day you find you cannot walk as far. A few years later, the legs have weakened significantly, without you ever noticing when it truly began. That is why understanding sarcopenia, what it is, why it matters, and how to stop it, is the first and most important step to protecting your legs, your independence, and your peace of mind in the years ahead. When the legs begin to weaken, the body actually sends very clear signals, but many older adults brush them aside, thinking, well, that's just old age. The truth is, it's not just age. These signs often mean the muscles are shrinking, strength is declining, and without early intervention, the legs can weaken much faster than we expect. One of the earliest signs that the legs are beginning to weaken is when the thighs and calves slowly start to shrink. Movements that used to be effortless, like standing up from a chair, now require leaning forward or pushing off with your hands. Some people can still stand, but they need to pause for a moment to regain their balance. This isn't simply getting older. It is the body's way of telling you that the major muscle groups in the thighs, glutes, and calves have already decreased significantly, and the lifting power of the legs has begun to fade. Many older adults even notice something that seems harmless at first, but is actually a serious warning. Pants that once fit comfortably suddenly feel loose around the calves. That looseness doesn't come from healthy weight loss. It comes from losing muscle, leaving only a thin layer of skin on the outside. Once the muscles begin to shrink, the legs no longer look firm. The gait becomes heavier, slower, and less stable than before. Another sign appears when someone realizes that squatting down and standing back up in one smooth motion is no longer possible. They may need several seconds to steady themselves before taking a step. This is a very clear indication that the quadriceps, the large muscles at the front of the thighs, are weakening. These muscles are essential for standing up, climbing stairs, stepping over thresholds, and even turning safely in the house. When they decline, every simple movement feels slower and requires noticeably more effort. The glutes, the muscles in the buttocks, tell their own story as well. Many people assume that smaller glutes are normal with age, but weak glute muscles are one of the main reasons older adults begin to lose their balance. When the glutes weaken, even a mild stumble can turn into a loss of stability. Walking up or down slopes feels less controlled, and the legs may no longer catch the weight of the body the way they used to. When the thighs, glutes, and calves all weaken at the same time, the lifting power of the legs drops sharply. If you need to hold on to a chair or table to stand up, or you must use your hands to steady yourself, that is an early sign that muscle atrophy is progressing quietly every day. As the muscles weaken further, walking speed begins to slow down. Many older adults notice that they no longer make it across the street before the light changes. The steps feel heavier, almost as if dragging a small weight behind them. Walking with children or grandchildren becomes difficult, not because the young ones walk quickly, but because their own legs can no longer maintain the pace. After walking just a short distance, they must stop to catch their breath because their heart beats faster and their legs feel weak. This happens because the muscles no longer have enough strength to push the body forward, and every step requires more energy than before. Experts often say that a walking speed of less than 1 meter per second is considered slow and carries a higher health risk. But you don't need any special tools to notice this. Everyday life reveals the truth. You may find that you only get halfway across the street before the light turns red, even though you used to cross in plenty of time. A simple trip to the market now requires several rest stops. Even walking around the house begins to feel tiring sooner than it once did. These small changes are actually the body's way of warning that strength in the legs is fading. Surprisingly, another early sign of weakening muscles appears not in the legs, but in the hands. Grip strength is one of the most important indicators doctors use to assess overall muscle health. When the body starts to weaken, muscles are lost everywhere, not just in the legs. That is why many older adults suddenly find it difficult to open a bottle cap, tighten a pressure cooker lid, or carry a shopping bag without switching hands, because one hand becomes tired or numb. Even holding a bowl steadily becomes harder. In medicine, the standards are clear. Men with grip strength below 28 kilograms and women below 18 kilograms have a high risk of sarcopenia, but you don't need a measuring device to recognize the change. Your daily activities already show it. If opening a bottle now requires asking someone else for help, or if scissors slip from your fingers when cutting something, those are early signs that the muscles in the arms, and soon the legs, are declining. This connection is important, because when grip strength decreases, the large muscles in the thighs and hips often weaken soon after. The body's strength does not fade in only one place. Weak hands are often the first alarm bell for weak legs. Unexpected weight loss is another sign that many older adults overlook. As people age, they often begin eating less, smaller meals, skipping breakfast, or eating only enough to fill the stomach. Their clothes become looser, so they assume this is a good thing. But most weight loss in older age is not fat loss. It is muscle loss. A BMI below 20 is often a sign of undernutrition. When the body does not receive enough protein, it begins breaking down its own muscles for energy. As a result, the legs become thinner and weaker. Walking becomes tiring. And this creates a dangerous spiral. Eating less leads to weakness. Weakness leads to moving less. Moving less leads to losing more muscle. And losing muscle makes walking harder, which then reduces appetite even further. The legs may look thinner within just a few months, and even a short walk leaves the person out of breath. These changes are not caused by illness. They are caused by muscles that no longer have the nutrients they need to survive. Finally, one of the most common causes of weakened legs is simply a lack of movement. Many older adults spend long hours sitting, watching television, or lying down, not knowing that inactivity accelerates muscle loss dramatically. After age 60, a person who does not exercise can lose up to 12% of their muscle mass in a single year. And the most dangerous situation is prolonged bed rest, especially during hospital stays. Studies show that just 10 days of minimal movement can cause 15% of seniors to develop noticeable sarcopenia. This explains why some people walk normally before hospitalization, but after a short period of lying in bed, they struggle to stand, feel exhausted after a few steps, or never regain their former strength, even though their illness has already improved. The muscle loss happened not because of the disease, but because the muscles were not used. When muscles disappear so suddenly, even the simplest tasks become difficult. Standing up from a chair requires holding on to the table. Walking across the room must be done slowly, with careful steps. Climbing stairs becomes nearly impossible without holding the railing. The older body simply cannot afford to stop moving. Even just a few days of inactivity can push the legs into rapid decline. Recognizing these signs early is incredibly important. They tell you exactly what stage your legs are in and what needs to change immediately. The sooner you notice and respond, the stronger your legs will remain, and the less likely they will deteriorate too quickly. Fortunately, checking your muscle status at home is simple and doesn't require any special equipment, just a chair, a bit of time, and a little attention to how your body feels. In hospitals, doctors have very strict criteria for diagnosing sarcopenia. They measure grip strength with special devices. They check walking speed, and they even use machines to evaluate muscle mass. But honestly, you don't need any of that to get a pretty good idea of where you stand. At home, you can still tell quite a lot just by paying attention to a few very simple things. One of the easiest indicators is your walking speed. As the research shows, anyone who walks slower than 1 meter per second is already in the higher risk group for sarcopenia. You don't need a stopwatch or fancy tools. Just notice yourself in everyday situations, crossing the street, walking through the market, or simply moving from one room to another. If you feel like you're always trying to keep up, or you tend to fall behind even when others aren't walking fast, that alone is a sign your leg strength may be slipping. Another thing doctors look at is grip strength. Their numbers are very clear. Men who grip less than 28 kilograms and women less than 18 kilograms are almost certainly dealing with sarcopenia. Now, of course, none of us have a grip strength meter sitting around at home, but the hands will tell you anyway. If one day you suddenly struggle to open a bottle cap you used to twist off without thinking, or a simple jar in the kitchen takes both hands and still won't budge, or your fingers shake, or you drop things more easily, those are signals. They show that your muscles aren't just weakening in your hands, but throughout your whole body. But among all the simple checks you can do at home, there's one that experts recommend the most because it reveals a lot in just a few seconds. The 5 times chair stands test. The setup couldn't be easier. Find a chair with no armrests. Sit up tall and fold your arms across your chest. When you start, stand up fully and sit back down, and repeat this movement 5 times in a row. If it takes you more than 12 seconds, research shows that your risk of sarcopenia is very high. This little test might look simple, but it's backed by strong scientific data. It accurately reflects the strength of your thigh muscles, the power of your glutes, and even your overall endurance. And the point isn't just to try it for fun. It's to help you understand exactly where your body is right now, so you can step in early and protect your legs before real problems show up. Because here's something many people don't realize. It's not the big events that wear down our legs. It's the little habits we repeat every day without thinking. Day after day, there are things we do that quietly drain our muscle strength, thin out the bones, and weaken the legs long before we notice anything is wrong. By the time we feel it in our walking or in our balance, the decline has already been happening for years. One of the biggest culprits is eating too little without realizing it. Many older adults lose their appetite over time or eat just enough to get by. A small bowl here, a few bites there, skipping a meal because they're not hungry. It feels normal, but the body doesn't see it as normal. It sees it as starvation. And when the body doesn't receive enough protein or calories, the first thing it burns for energy is muscle. That's why many uncles and aunts notice their clothes becoming looser, especially around the thighs or hips. Even though they haven't tried to lose weight, it may look like thinness, but it's not the healthy kind. With a BMI below 20, the body often enters a state of undernutrition, and muscle melts away faster than people expect. Once the legs lose that foundation, walking becomes tiring, climbing stairs becomes a challenge, and even breathing gets harder during movement. Another habit that speeds up leg weakness is spending too much time sitting in one place. It happens easily. A little television in the morning, a short rest after lunch, then another show in the afternoon, and suddenly the whole day has passed with barely any movement. And while resting feels harmless, muscles interpret stillness as a message. You don't need me anymore. After age 60, muscles disappear shockingly fast when they're not used, as much as 12% in just a year without regular activity. For an older body, losing that much muscle can turn strong legs into weak ones in what feels like no time at all. But the most dangerous situation is extended bed rest. When someone becomes sick, or needs to stay in the hospital, or simply lies down more than usual because they're tired, the legs pay the price immediately. Studies show that just 10 days of very little movement can cause 15% of older adults to develop noticeable sarcopenia. That's why so many people say, "Before I went to the hospital, I walked fine, but after I came home, I could barely stand." The illness wasn't what stole their strength. The lack of movement did. And then there is the habit of avoiding stairs, avoiding bending down, avoiding anything that feels even slightly tiring. Many older adults begin to protect themselves by reducing movement, using their hands for everything, or stopping activities they once enjoyed. It feels safer, but in reality, it tells the muscles to shut down even faster. The less the legs do, the less they can do. What used to be simple, lifting a foot over a threshold, getting up from a sofa, stepping onto a curb, slowly becomes harder, slower, and more draining. Finally, many people underestimate how much poor sleep, stress, and dehydration affect leg strength. When the body is tired or under stress, it breaks down nutrients differently, and recovery slows down. Muscles don't rebuild at night the way they used to, and joints feel stiffer in the morning. Over time, the legs feel heavier, weaker, and less coordinated. All of these habits, eating too little, sitting too long, avoiding movement, lying in bed for days, or simply letting the body stay tired, seem tiny. But together, they speed up muscle loss in a way most people never notice until it's already far along. And once the decline has gone too far, rebuilding strength becomes harder and slower, especially in older age. The good news is that the moment you understand these habits, you're already halfway to protecting your legs. Awareness is the first step. Action is the next, and the body, even in older age, responds beautifully to the right care. Muscles can grow again, balance can improve, and walking can become easier, but only when the everyday choices begin to change. If you're starting to recognize yourself in any of these patterns, don't worry. It doesn't mean it's too late. It simply means now is the right time to make gentle, intentional changes that bring strength back into your legs and confidence back into your steps. When we talk about keeping the legs strong well into old age, the truth is that it doesn't require anything complicated or extreme. It comes down to a few simple principles that the body responds to beautifully, even later in life. And the wonderful thing is that the legs can improve at almost any age, as long as we give them the right fuel, the right movement, and the right care. One of the most important foundations is nutrition, especially protein. Many older adults don't realize how quickly muscle melts away when the body doesn't receive enough protein each day. The science is very clear. We need about 1 gram of protein for every kilogram of body weight. So So if someone weighs 60 kilograms, they should aim for about 60 grams of protein daily. And it doesn't only come from meat, eggs, dairy, tofu, fish, beans, and even certain grains all help nourish the muscles when the body is underfed or undernourished. Especially when BMI drops below 20, the muscles are the first things sacrificed. That's why people suddenly lose weight, feel weaker, notice their legs thinning, or find themselves short of breath while walking. Eating well isn't about gaining weight. It's about giving the legs the building blocks they need to stay alive and strong. Just as important as protein is vitamin D, a nutrient many older adults lack without ever knowing it. Vitamin D acts like a key that helps the body absorb calcium and keep the bones strong. It also plays a role in muscle strength. Some studies even show it helps prevent sarcopenia. But vitamin D doesn't come from vegetables. It's found in foods like eggs, fish, and mushrooms. And the body naturally makes it when the skin is exposed to sunlight. Even 15 minutes of gentle morning sun helps the body produce what it needs. Without vitamin D, bones become brittle, muscles weaken faster, and the risk of falling increases dramatically. Of course, no amount of good nutrition can help if the legs are never used. The body is very honest. Muscles only stay alive when they have work to do. That's why daily movement, even small movements, is essential after 60. And it doesn't need to be strenuous. Simple exercises like slowly lifting each leg while sitting in a chair, or taking 3 seconds to raise and 3 seconds to lower the leg, can do wonders for the quadriceps. Holding a gentle air chair position for 10 seconds before sitting down strengthens the glutes and thighs without any equipment. Walking, too, is a powerful tool. Even short daily walks help the joints stay flexible, the muscles stay awake, and the circulation stay active. But the reason movement is so crucial is that, without it, the body loses up to 12% of its muscle mass every year after the age of 60. And if someone becomes sick and needs to stay in bed, the decline happens even faster. Just 10 days of minimal movement is enough for 15% of older adults to develop significant sarcopenia. That's why some people walk normally before entering the hospital, but return home barely able to stand. And it's also why we must build what doctors call muscle reserves, extra strength that protects the body during times of illness or stress. Think of it as saving money for an emergency, but instead of dollars, you're depositing muscle. Keeping the legs strong also means maintaining a healthy weight in the right way. Many people think being thin is better, but thin with weak muscles is more dangerous than being slightly overweight. And on the other side, carrying too much fat, especially around the belly, creates a condition called sarcopenic obesity, where someone has too much fat but very little muscle. This combination increases the risk of diabetes, joint pain, poor circulation in the legs, and even amputation in severe cases. The way out is not dieting blindly, but rebuilding muscle first. When muscles grow stronger, the metabolism increases naturally, and the body begins to lose excess fat on its own. Balance also improves. Walking feels easier. Getting out of a chair doesn't require effort, and life begins to feel lighter again. Even during illness or hospitalization, protecting the legs should always be a priority. Gentle leg raises, small movements in bed, or short walks down the hallway. Anything that keeps the muscles engaged helps prevent the rapid decline that so many older adults experience after a hospital stay. And once someone returns home, continuing these small exercises makes all the difference in recovering strength. When you put all of this together, eating enough protein, getting vitamin D, avoiding long periods of sitting, walking daily, rebuilding muscles slowly, and staying aware of your body, the legs stay strong, stable, and dependable for far longer than most people imagine. Age may bring changes, but weakness is not something we are forced to accept. The body is remarkably forgiving when you begin nourishing it the right way, when you ask it to move a little each day. When you let the sun touch your skin and you keep your muscles awake, the legs respond. They grow stronger again, steadier again, more ready to carry you wherever life calls you. And that is how we preserve not only our legs, but our freedom. The freedom to walk, to move, to live, and to enjoy the years still ahead of us with dignity and ease. Dear friends, Your legs are truly the roots of your long life. As long as your steps remain steady, you remain independent, you remain confident, and you continue to care for yourself with dignity. Strong legs don't just support the body, they support freedom, joy, and the simple comforts of everyday living. And now, you already have the knowledge you need. What comes next is simply taking the first step. Just choose one small habit from today's talk and begin it, not tomorrow, not someday, but today. Even a tiny change can open the door to a future where your legs stay strong, your balance stays secure, and your days stay light and comfortable. My hope is that every one of you continues walking through your later years with strength and confidence, so that growing older never takes away your freedom, only adds to your peace and happiness. If this message has been helpful to you, we warmly invite you to leave a kind word below and subscribe to Elderly Heart Talks so we can continue walking together, nurturing health, wisdom, and gentle strength through every precious year ahead.